Hello and welcome to Euphoria. This channel explores designing, creating and building models for a LEGO city. We'll be exploring the joys and challenges of building official LEGO sets and designing and making modifications and my own creations. In this series of videos I'll be explaining how I develop the concept, design and build for a LEGO creation of my own design, a MOC. I'm creating a building for my LEGO city. It will be an old astronomical clock that sits in the centre of the town and is a historical landmark and tourist attraction. In previous videos we looked at the development of the concept for this model and the various stages of design for the MOC. If you haven't seen them yet, you might want to look at the previous videos in this series. There's a link in the card above and in the description below. So now we've completed the design, and before we get into the build itself, I just wanted to explain a bit about prototyping in the design process and show you some of the prototyping work that I've done for this project. In the previous video, we completed the design for this MOC. I designed it in LEGO Digital Designer, so I now have a pretty accurate idea of what this MOC will look like and the parts I need to build it. It's a modular building representing an old astronomical clock tower. It's built on a standard 32 by 32 base plate as a corner modular building. It's built over 3 stories that will separate in modular style. It has an astronomical clock at the front and a fountain at the side. Inside the building is a museum and shop, as well as the astronomical clock mechanisms. The idea is based partly on the LEGO Harry Potter clock tower set and parts of the LEGO Harry Potter Whomping Willow set. I already bought those sets and built them, so I have some of the parts for this MOC already. I developed the design through a number of design stages, and the design calls for lots of other LEGO elements that I don't have at the moment. But during the design process I wanted to try things out to see if they worked and see how they looked. So I did quite a bit of prototyping during the development of the design for this MOC. So in this video I'm just going to explain the place of prototyping in the design process and then have a look round the model in its prototype form. So what is prototyping? The previous phases of the development of this MOC looked at the structural design, the detailed design and finalising the design for this MOC. Now, I don't consider prototyping to be a separate phase of the design process. Instead, I think of it as a side activity that supports the design process. I might start prototyping really early in the design. In fact, it might even be a bit of playing around with LEGO that gives me some of the initial ideas for a MOC. And as I go through the development of the design, I continue to prototype some parts of the build. Sometimes it's difficult to see things in a CAD program and difficult to get a feel for how something will work out in practice. This is especially true for any moving parts. So prototyping can be really useful because it lets me experiment with alternatives using actual LEGO elements. I can see if build techniques work in practice. I can test the strength and structural integrity of parts of the build. And I can start to see how things look when they're made out of real LEGO. When I'm prototyping, I might not have the exact bricks I need, or I might not have them in the right sizes or colours, but trying things out lets me get a feel for how parts of the build will work out in practice. So during the design, I developed quite a few parts of the build as separate constructs, and I even built a substantial part of the whole building to see how it works. So let me show you around the prototype that I built for this project.
So here we've got a prototype of the complete building. It's roughly the right size and shape. It's got some of the features of the design, but you can see, or I'll show you, how it's made of various bricks that I have available, not necessarily the right bricks or colours, and some of the design features haven't been implemented in this prototype build. You can see that it's modular in the sense that it comes apart in the 3 levels of the design, but a lot of parts of it are not finished, including things like the stairs, all the interior decoration. Some of the parts of the design are not attached properly, and also there are things here that I've taken out of the design subsequent to this prototype. For example, there's no round tower on the front of the building anymore. I've changed the design of the doorway considerably. The fountain's changed. This area here is all changed. The internal wall structure hasn't been completed, and you can see that I've used some random colours for the bricks depending on what I have available to make the prototype out of before I complete purchasing all the parts. I developed some of the prototype in quite early stages of the design. For example, the way that it was laid out on the base plate, the decisions to make it into a corner building with a tower on the corner, and particularly the layout of this tower using these panels in the corner, these wedge bricks to finish off the tower, and the use of these columns on the front, which really came from the Harry Potter clock tower model. The depth of the building was developed incrementally, and the problem I had during the design phase that I've described during the design videos was the width of the building to fit in with the modular standards, or the depth of the building to fit in with the modular standards, both at the side of the building and at the back here, where we have to have the modular connectors. I've tried lots of different ideas for building this fountain. I've ended up with a relatively simple design for the outside, but actually I've subsequently changed this bit here that I don't really like, and I've tried playing around with the rock work on the bottom to give it a kind of grounded feeling. One of the areas I really had to prototype was the roof and the complex design of the roof, with the cross gable on the top here, the different angles of the roof joining the 2 slopes, and particularly this area where the tower meets the angles of the roof. And again, you can see in the design videos where I've tried different ways of achieving this. In the end, it became fairly straightforward if I attached the tower here. It could have moved out this way, it could have moved out this way, it could have been offset, but in all of those cases I ended up with an issue with the angle of the roof meeting the angle of the tower, and so making it join here on this ridge line seemed to give me the best solution to attaching the tower onto the building. Details here. You can see that I've developed the shape of the corner tower and the positioning of it. I've done some of the rock work around the base to ground the building into the groundwork. Obviously all the tiling along the top hasn't been done yet properly because I haven't got the right tiles. I did manage to pick up some of these 1x2 tiles at the Lego pick-a-brick wall, so they've been very handy in just trying some of this out. The front door area with the new doorway hasn't been prototyped. I shall need some parts to do that. This prototype's got this tower on the front, which again isn't part of the final design, and the rock work here at the front, that will also change. I've had to use quite a lot of bricks that aren't the right colour, shape and size. The stairway, I tried to have a go at that, but again didn't have quite the right bricks to make that work, but never mind, it gives me the idea for the design. I've got some of the arch bricks that I need for the internal reinforcement of the walls, but this part here will have an arch eventually, but I haven't got that yet. Round the back I've got an indication of where the door will be, but I haven't finished the design or built the finished design for the back door. On this wall again we're using all the wrong colours, and the fountain isn't quite the final design. In fact, the positioning of it has changed slightly. I was playing around with rock work here as well, but I didn't like this part of the design, so I've changed that in the final design. I did play around with some of the rock work on this corner, which I quite liked, so I've adapted and adopted some of that into the final design. Inside, of course, there's none of the details and none of the tiling on the floors, so I'll do that obviously when I get all the parts that I need to finish off the interior. So that was the ground floor. Now I'll have a look at the first floor. So I have managed to prototype build some of the base, but again I haven't got the right colour plates, and the final design doesn't use these sizes, but it did let me confirm the fit of the first floor onto the ground floor. The astronomical clock, I played around with lots of ideas for this. This is an early design that I was playing with, but this isn't the final design, and I need to get some of the parts to make the larger version of this astronomical clock. Again, I've managed to work out the floor design for the bottom of the tower and the sides of the tower and the way that they fit into the rest of the walls. Some of the detailing obviously will change, and you can see this is not built correctly. There's a big gap there. All that will be fixed when I build the model properly. Nothing to see round the back, but again on the interior, none of the interior is present in the prototype. I've had to use some strange bricks here to try and work out the doorway, and here I need a column piece to make this part of the tower support, and I haven't got all the right pieces to do that either. But it just gives me confirmation about the dimensions, the way that the parts fit together, sizes and heights and so on. Again, I've tiled all of the tops of the walls, but not in the right colours and the right tiles, and I need a lot of tiles to finish off the tops of all the walls. But that was a rough look at the first floor. Now I'll look at the roof and top floor. This was quite difficult to prototype and took a lot of time and experimentation, but that just shows the value of prototyping some of this. So let's just walk around the outside first. This is the mounting place for the clock face, which I've adjusted from the original Harry Potter clock tower, but made sure it fits in together in there. Here we've got the side walls, which are just doubled up from the original Harry Potter clock tower, again using whatever bricks I have available. Round the back I made sure that this part of the roof line worked and was able to support the ridge line of the roof, which I'll come on to in a minute. And again around this side, just making sure I've got the dimensions right, not necessarily using the right colours and parts for the roof, but making sure that this fits together, and the top part where the tower meets the ridge line, making sure there are no gaps in there. Excuse me, there are some loose parts fallen off. Let's put that back. So just making sure that the tower meets the ridge line of the roof without any gaps. There's no complications around the slopes that go down the side. Again, missing parts of the roof here, but you can see that the angles work at least on this side. So when I've got all the other parts, I can complete the other side as a mirror of this side. The roof does open a little bit. You can swing it open, so that function works. And this one will open as well to let you see some of the inside of the building. Again, there's no inside, but when you look inside you can see that I've managed to complete the support structure for the ridge line of the roof. Let me just show you that over here a second. So here I've got the arch construct and the column that supports the top of the tower. The ridge line of the roof goes all the way across and is supported between these two columns. That beam also has to support this beam, which forms the ridge line of the other part of the roof. And here you can just about see where the two arches meet on that column to support the round or conical roof that will go on top of this tower. So that gives me quite a lot of confidence that the construction of this tower and the roof will more or less work, and when I get all the pieces in the right colours to finish this off, then this should look pretty good when it's all finished. So that was a quick look round one of the prototype builds for this MOC. The prototypes let me confirm certain build techniques and were invaluable in confirming the fit of various parts of the build. They also let me check how the design provides support for the floors and the roof, whether it has enough strength, and to some extent how it looks. Now I need to continue with the procurement of the parts I need
to build this MOC properly according to the design. That means obtaining the actual bricks I need in the correct sizes and colours. Look out for the next video in this series in which I will discuss procurement for this MOC. Thanks for watching. Please let me know what you think in the comments below and hit the like button if you like this video, and subscribe to this channel if you want to see more videos about LEGO modular buildings.